Just give me my badge already! Pokemon is one of those games where ultimately very little changes over the years. While there might be deviations here and there, for the most part you're meant to challenge the gym leader, defeat them in battle, and collect badges to prove yourself at the Pokemon League. So it is kind of funny that only in the second generation Game Freak decided that there should be a gym leader who didn't want to follow the rules. In Blackthorn City we get to battle against Clair. Being a Dragon Master and the cousin of Lance, she puts up a challenge. She's got 3 Dragonair and a Pokemon with one of the best type combinations ever conceived, Kingdra. Definitely not impossible, but especially in the original versions of a game, things can get a little wacky with move pools and level distribution. Though you can't always be like me and ice punch everything in your way. But even after you take down all 4 of her Dragon Pokemon, she can't even comprehend losing. Sure, she was a bit arrogant in her introduction, claiming to be the world's best Dragon Master, but surely she would have expected the possibility of losing. I think maybe she's also taking into account how young the player character is, thinking that we're inexperienced and thus our victory was a fluke. And so, Clair tells us to visit the Dragon's Den and bring her back a Dragon Fang. Apparently this is the same challenge that any Dragon user has to complete according to the tradition in Blackthorn City. It's a relatively easy task on the surface, but I think the symbolism behind it is where she gets the reasoning. She figures that we should at the very least meet some of the minimum requirements that she had to in order for her to validate our victory in her mind. Yeah, this is one of the only times we don't receive the gym badge in the actual gym location. It's also kinda neat because it feels like a part of the gym challenge, even though just before the battle we had to go through a puzzle like every other place. This one might even be one of the longest gym puzzles, if not the most intense because of all the lava. Anyway, inside the Dragon's Den there isn't a whole lot except for an old shrine in the middle and some whirlpools in the water, making this a necessary HM to complete the game. But after some more trekking we find ourselves in the deepest part of the cave where the Dragon Fang can be found. Then Clair shows up and finally gives us a gym badge. I've always been a big fan of this additional quest because it brings in a cool new location and does a good amount to give Clair some personality. I'm not saying that the other gym leaders in this game were boring, but the ones that stand out really have more to them than just a battle. I would say that Clair becomes one of the most memorable gym leaders ever because of this. It's not really some arbitrary means of extending the gameplay, it's something that occurs as a result of a character being allowed to be a character, similar to how Jasmine won't battle you until she knows that Amphi's okay. And even the little moment with Whitney in Goldenrod City where after she loses a battle, she starts crying and doesn't give you a badge until she calms down. Little things like this made the Johto gym leaders better than a majority of the previous generation in my opinion. But the Kanto gym leaders don't totally get left out because we can revisit Kanto and they have some moments there as well. In the remakes of Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, things are more or less the same, but there's some extra flair, like how Clair leads off with a Gyarados instead of Dragonair number 3. But when you win the battle it plays out in a familiar way as we're sent off to the Dragon's Den. Though instead of tracking down a Dragon Fang, we're presented in front of the elders who begrudgingly test our spirit knowing that Clair was the one behind it. We take a little quiz and the right answers are pretty obvious, but I find the setup interesting, because before Clair admits that we're deserving of the gym badge on her own volition after we complete the challenge that she presented us with. But now she's relying on the words of the elder and even shows up after he's done testing us to prove that he approves. Apparently she hasn't even found favor with the elders. This time around her arrogance is really amped up, or at least her doubt of the player character is. Here, she was sending us on a fool's errand thinking there was no way we would be able to pass. She even came by to make sure of it. Clair has to be told to give us a badge. I think it makes a funny event, but I almost prefer the original, because there she learns and maybe could change based on her own standards. The remake set her up as someone even more petty who needed to be knocked down a peg by someone else. I think it really comes down to personal preference. But it is cool that in later interactions with Clair we get to see some of that growth. I do appreciate the changes made to the Dragon's Den itself. Mostly the trainers that they add in to make it look like a place where people do actually train, and also the sages inside the shrine give it a feeling of a sacred place important to the people of Blackthorn City. It's given a bit more of a unique aesthetic now. And there's also a moment in the remakes where we get to go back and battle alongside the rival Silver against Clair and Lance. It's been so long since I've actually done this battle myself, but I'm glad it exists. Just the fact that important and well-known Dragon Masters like them would visit the Dragon's Den makes it feel even more significant. Over in the anime, it's a different story. Ash and friends meet Clair just before their gym battle and her personality is a lot less abrasive. She's a kind host after they help her out, and the battle between her and Ash is a pretty cool one. After witnessing Pikachu's battle skill, she even says that they've gained her respect. Something that I think the original Clair would never say during battle. But this battle ends up getting cut short due to Team Rocket setting off the burglar alarm after they try stealing the Dragon Fang. There's a whole thing here in another episode between here and the point where Ash and Clair get to have their rematch. I'm not gonna do a full dive into these episodes at the moment, though I would like to at some point, mostly because I wanted to focus on the topic of Clair's behavior in the video games. I'm just showing how different everything plays out in the anime. It was interesting how they decided to have the battle interrupted before completing it later rather than having her send Ash on some other adventure to prove himself. I think they both work in their respective continuities. From the encounter in the original video games, I've always really liked Clair as a character. Just having something extra in her storyline and connecting her to another well-known character was a fun way of making an impression. Also, she's gorgeous, I'm not gonna lie. I know characters in-game make fun of her outfit like Silver, but this is a 10 out of 10 outfit, no notes. Anyway, this is supposed to be a video about how she doesn't give you the gym badge right away. That's right. While I was making this video, I remembered another very important memory for this event, and as you can see probably from the footage used in the Heart Gold and Soul Silver portion of the video, that the quality it was recorded in is just not amazing. It's literally an iPad pointed at a Nintendo DS, and that's because it actually comes from a playthrough that my friend did on an old YouTube channel that we both used to share. And in this episode specifically where my friend challenges Clair and defeats her and does that whole thing with the Dragon's Den, I was actually joining him as part of the commentary, though I'm joining him over Skype. So just overall, the quality of this video is terrible and I would not recommend anybody watch it. But honestly, it is one of my personal favorite memories from when we were making YouTube videos back in the day before, you know, actually really getting anywhere. So yeah, I just thought I would include this because it is part of my nostalgic memories of this game, as well as, you know, kind of an explanation of why the video quality looks so terrible. Because whenever I want to talk about Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I just go back and grab some footage of that playthrough because I honestly don't care. It's cool. Pokemon Gold and Silver really tried a lot of new ideas, and I think it's honestly kind of crazy to see just how much changed from Generation 1 to Generation 2. Not only in mechanics, but also how familiar ideas are spun around to make a new experience for the player. And even in later games, we really haven't seen much like this. I know I had included Jasmine as an example earlier on, but I think she can also kind of fall into the category of complete this task and then we'll battle, rather than how Clair is presented to be pretty standard at face value and then turns the concept around. So let me know what you think in the comments below about this gym battle and what you think are some other memorable moments in the same vein, whether they be from this generation or from a different one that just kind of carry the same aura. And how do you think we can learn from this to make more interesting gym leaders in the future? Anyway, I should be heading off to the Dragon's Den now. I need to go get one of those Dragon Fangs for myself. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, including the Great Gators, Pastel Blood, Cemetery Hill, Cosmo Zero, Mr. Saturn, Rainfrux, Cheez-It62, Alex Swiss, Shiny Hunter, Michael Snyder, Lockadox, Gator Kid 509, TF, Mathaclong 947, No Man Nobi, Taijirai, Justin R, Phantom, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes for comments, live streams, and sometimes early videos, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, and I'll catch you all later.
The legendary Lugia, and Ho-Oh rise again in the all-new Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver version games. You can catch, battle, and trade Pokemon in the vast Johto region. And now, for the first time ever, you can take your favorite Pokemon with you with the new Pokewalker accessory and level up your Pokemon. Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver version games with the Pokewalker, only for Nintendo DS and Nintendo DSi.